Hi everyone, Sandman here. I woke up in Roswell, New Mexico and drove down to Main Street, and my first stop was to the International UFO Museum and Research Center. The place used to be the Plains movie theater, and today it's been converted into probably the mecca for alien enthusiasts. What caught me off guard was the spinning UFO with the 4 gray aliens hanging out in the middle of the museum. Every 5 to 10 minutes there was a smoke and light show, and I felt like I was actually in Disneyland. Unfortunately, I was there on a weekend and none of the directors of the museum were there for an interview. What especially got my attention in this museum were the Nazi UFO dioramas that are supposedly from 1945. They're extremely detailed and they have the words Foo Fighters under them with a question mark. The museum also has many of the original newspaper clippings, radio equipment used to broadcast to the world that the Roswell Army airfield had captured a saucer. Then the radio station went silent and it was told to basically stop talking about the flying saucer. You can spend about an hour reading all the research information they have on the walls. Admission is $5, but they let me in for free because I guess my camera equipment made them feel good about me actually giving them some publicity. That's the great thing about filming things on the road and doing interviews. You usually get free admission and a guided tour by the tour manager many times. Some of the stuff in this museum I was already familiar with, as you probably already know from seeing my UFO photos that I shared a few days ago. But there was originally a plan to expand this place, but the UFO fever of the 1990s has died down since then. It was literally like a goldmine for this town for a really long time. After finishing here, I decided to check out some of the old tacky gift shops on Main Street to see if I could actually get an interview in one of those. The first place I went to was called the Roswell Landing, and they pointed me across the street to another store called Third Rock from the Sun. Honestly, I don't know how they get away with using that particular name, and why the television network with the show that has the same name wasn't trying to stop them. So this was my third try to get an interview at the Third Rock from the Sun, and I basically got one, and I also got tons of footage in their store. It's a numbers game. You have to ask 2 people to go on camera, and one of them often agrees to do the interview. Those are pretty good odds. Most of the time people are happy to oblige because it brings them added publicity. And they also know that I'll probably bring them at least 2,000 people to see the video when it's finally posted. After that, I decided to go to the Roswell McDonald's yet again to see if I could get an interview with someone there. But I was told by the manager that the owner was attending his son's birthday party, and so he couldn't be disturbed. Sometimes I wonder how people can make up such sob stories and still keep a straight face. Women seem to do this when they're trying to get me to give up on doing an interview. There were at least 3 to 4 women playing passive-aggressive on my trip when I was asking for interviews. So after this, I decided that I was going to head south towards Texas, toward the Carlsbad Caverns National Park. Many people told me that their elevator wasn't working, so I'd have to hike down almost a mile and a half to get to the cavern and march back up from the bottom. There's a restaurant and a gift shop at the bottom that I wanted to film, but once I got there I realized that they weren't serving food and drinks because 2 out of the 3 elevators weren't functional, and they honestly don't know when they'll be serving food down there again. I was down there around 3 p.m. and the rangers were already shutting off the lights and roping off areas, trying to get everyone out by 4 or 5 o'clock. Sorry for the shots being so dark because I couldn't really bring my tripod down there because I didn't feel like carrying it up and down a mile deep underground. There's also a special experience at the end of the day when the bats come flying out of the cave. The signs say no cameras, so I didn't stick around for the bats, and besides I had to head back to Roswell and then up to Santa Fe, New Mexico where I was spending the night. This is my first experience visiting a large cave. The only other cave I've ever actually been to was in Cuba, of all places, when I was a child. I was also recently speaking to Paul Proteus, and he thinks that a trip to Cuba would also be a good idea for us Canadians before you Americans are allowed in and supposedly ruin the place with Starbucks and McDonald's. So maybe a trip to explore all of Cuba is a really good idea. Anyways, come back to watch me explore what many people consider the oldest town in North America, the native city of Taos Pueblo. And then after that I'm actually heading out to one of the places that I've been dying to see for the last 10 to 15 years. A community built of exclusively Earthships. Between these 2 places there's the Rio Grande Gorge and a weird-looking food truck or bus that I managed to film along the way. Anyways, thanks for joining me on my journey so far. Enjoy the rest of your day, and cheers.